The galaxy wasn't weak at all. What if a human cadet died in front of everyone, and then stood back up, blood-covered, unbroken, and holding the secret that would shake the stars? This isn't just a story about survival. It's a story about defying everything. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and show a thumbs up by liking the video. Now, let's move toward this wonderful story, one that will change the way you see humans forever. The Telvarus moon shimmered quietly in the dark, hanging like a forgotten ornament just beyond the edge of galactic attention. Orbiting it, high above the dust and noise of everyday planetary life, floated the citadel of stars, a massive space station built with sweeping spires and glowing towers. It was home to the most advanced interstellar academy ever created, where the brightest cadets from over 150 species trained to become defenders of galactic peace. It was a place of pride, precision, and purpose. And it had no idea what to do with humans. Naya Tormund stood among the newest batch of cadets, her posture straight, her expression calm. She was one of only 4 humans accepted that year, barely enough to make a difference, but just enough to make others uncomfortable. She wasn't a prodigy, didn't have advanced reflexes or psychic vision or 3 hearts. What she had were average marks, a stubborn streak, and the kind of quiet endurance that didn't impress anyone until it was the only thing left standing. Around her stood beings of all shapes and sizes, glowing, feathered, armored, gelatinous. Some floated, some clicked as they walked, some radiated soft heat or cold. They all looked like they belonged there. Naya looked like a girl who'd wandered into the wrong spaceship. To be fair, most of the instructors thought the same. Cerex, a towering insectoid with 4 arms and a long, sharp carapace, had made it no secret he considered humans a mistake. Colvin, a half-machine, half-liquid being who taught gravitational physics, simply called them the soft species, and rarely gave them more than passing attention. Naya had been ignored, laughed at, and once politely asked if her presence was part of a cultural exchange program rather than actual enrollment. But she never reacted. Not the way they expected. No frustration, no protest. Just a quiet nod, a small smile, and a steady showing up every single day. Her roommate, Jaroon, another human cadet, didn't share her patience. "They treat us like we're children in a room full of scholars," he muttered, flopping onto his bed one night. "And you just let them." Naya was reviewing a survival manual for the 6th time. She didn't look up. "They think we're weak. That's fine, it's easier to surprise someone who's already decided they've won." Jaroon snorted. "Great. So you're just going to outpatience them to death?" She finally looked up, and her eyes, normally soft and unassuming, were sharp. "No. I'm going to pass every test they throw at me, and I'm going to do it without giving them a reason to block the next human from getting in." Jaroon had no response to that. The next day, gravity training began. Simulated environments, stress drills, rotation under increased gravitational fields, designed to break even the most physically advanced species. Human bones, thinner and more fragile compared to many species, weren't meant for that kind of pressure. Most of the instructors thought it would be a short day for Naya, and it was hard. The field was intense. Her legs shook. Her chest felt like it was being pressed by a wall of stone. But she didn't collapse. She didn't quit. Every time the pressure increased, she adjusted, not perfectly, not without struggle, but she adapted. When the session ended, Cerex marked her performance as passable, with effort. That was the closest thing to a compliment she'd received in weeks. The other cadets noticed too. Karun, a lizard-like cadet with scales that changed color based on emotion, started asking her questions about her breathing technique. A few others, once too proud to speak to humans, began watching her simulations with quiet interest. Still, not everyone was impressed. Colvin filed a note in her record. "Continues to survive, but with no notable advantage. Performance likely due to chance or tolerance for pain." Chance. That was what they always called it when a human succeeded. Luck. Coincidence. Statistical. Anomaly. But Naya knew better. She didn't survive because she was lucky. She survived because she paid attention, trained hard, and refused to quit. even when her body screamed for her to stop. Later that week, she was assigned to simulation, Dome 5, an older dome notorious for unpredictable system glitches. When she asked if the safety protocols had been reviewed, Colvin chuckled. "We've had no complaints from anyone who walked out." Naya nodded and entered without another word. Inside, the simulation began with a temperature spike, followed by erratic terrain shifts. Rocks formed beneath her feet, disappeared, and then reappeared without warning. Gravity pulses hit every few seconds. Her heart pounded. Her skin was slick with sweat. But she kept moving. At the control station outside, instructors watched her. "Tata." Colvin leaned back, expecting her vitals to crash. Instead, they stabilized. Then something curious happened. One of the alien cadets, Tenzel, a glowing creature of light and heat, tilted his head. "Her stress response has leveled." "She's adapting," Sarex muttered, frowning. Colvin tapped a screen. "It won't last." But it did. When the simulation ended, Naya walked out, dusty and tired, but standing tall. Colvin didn't say a word. Sarex narrowed his eyes. Tenzel just nodded, once, slow and thoughtful. That night, Naya sat in her bunk, flipping through a manual no one had asked her to study. Jaren leaned against the doorway. "You know, they're watching you now." "I know," she said. "Scared?" "No," she replied, her voice steady. "Let them watch." And far above the moon of Telvaris, the stars kept their secrets, for now. The citadel of stars was never quiet for long. Engines hummed. Training drones zipped through corridors and instructors barked orders in 17 languages, sometimes all at once. But for Naya Torman, silence had become a kind of alarm. It usually meant something was about to go very wrong. She stood just outside Training Zone 19, her helmet tucked under one arm, facing a large door that seemed to breathe. The surface pulsed softly with red and gold lights, mimicking the rhythms of a living thing. Officially, the zone was used for advanced resilience trials. Unofficially, it was where cadets went to break. Naya hadn't been assigned there by accident. She knew that. Colvin, the cybernetic instructor with zero appreciation for subtlety, had handed her the assignment chip with a smirk barely hidden behind his glowing optic plates. "Let's see if those soft bones of yours hold up under pressure," he had said. She didn't respond. She rarely did. Talking back never helped. Surviving, though. That usually made the point louder than words ever could. Inside the control room, a handful of instructors monitored the chamber. One of them, Tenzel, watched her file scroll across his display. He was curious, not suspicious, not yet. Naya had passed every test so far. Not impressively, not dramatically. But she had passed, and he was beginning to wonder if that wasn't the more interesting result. "She's not special," Colvin said as if reading Tenzel's thoughts. "Just lucky." "Lucky doesn't survive 6 consecutive simulations with 0 mechanical support," Tenzel replied calmly. Colvin shrugged, but the glow in his chest dimmed slightly. As the doors to Zone 19 hissed open, a wall of heat hit Naya like a slap. Inside was chaos, flashes of light, crumbling terrain, and gravity spikes that came in short, violent bursts. The environment was meant to simulate a planet being pulled into a star, complete with tectonic tremors and atmospheric distortion. The usual safety gear had been swapped for lighter equipment. Naya had asked for confirmation earlier. Colvin had told her, "It's standard for your species." She'd nodded. She always did. The simulation began with a sudden drop in oxygen, followed by artificial hail that struck like needles. Naya stumbled at first but adjusted her breathing using the rhythm she'd practiced in pressure drills. She ducked behind a fake rock structure and surveyed the path ahead. Debris everywhere. Shifting floors. Red warning signs flashing intermittently. She took a slow step forward. In the control room, red flags began to appear on the screens. Something wasn't right with the simulation data. Power surges, sensor misfires. Tenzel leaned closer. Zone 19 is unstable, he said. Colvin waved a hand. It's a known glitch. The system rebalances on its own. Still, Tenzel said carefully, we should monitor more closely. Inside the dome, Naya had just reached a narrow coaster platform when the gravity shifted again, slamming her to her knees. Her bones ached. Her breath came short. Then, a sharp metallic sound echoed from above, like something heavy unlocking. She looked up. A turret extended from the ceiling. That wasn't standard. She knew because she'd memorized the simulation layout. Turrets were only used during live combat drills, not these. The weapon swiveled, locked on. She dove, but not fast enough. The projectile hit her in the chest. The dew. Impact flung her backward. Pain exploded through her ribs. The breath left her in one heavy rush. Her vision blurred. She landed hard. Limbs sprawled, blood already soaking her uniform. Her helmet cracked, eyes fluttered closed. Everything faded. In the control room, alarms went off. She's down, Tenzel shouted. Her vitals! Flatline. A technician. Confirmed. Emergency override. Tenzel called out. Colvin hesitated. Give it a moment. Might be equipment lag. But it wasn't. The data was clear. Naya Torman, human cadet, had been killed in the simulation. The silence that followed was thick and uncertain. Instructors exchanged uneasy looks. Some cadets outside the chamber watched from observation windows frozen. Most species processed death as a calculated loss. Emotional grief was uncommon here. But there was something about the way Naya had gone down, something too fast, too wrong, too brutal. Then something strange happened. Evie. One of the monitors flickered. A heartbeat. Just one. Everyone froze. A second flicker. Then another. She's alive? Tenzel asked, voice barely above a whisper. Impossible, Colvin said. That round was lethal. Even for more resilient species. Inside the dome, Naya moved not much, just a twitch at first, then a hand, blood-covered, gripped the floor. Her body shifted, slow but steady. Her chest rose with a deep, shuddering breath. Eyes opened, red with burst vessels, wild with clarity. She sat up. The cadets watching from the window gasped. One, a reptilian with infrared vision, saw something else too. The blood around Naya was moving. Not spilling out, not pooling, but shifting, gathering itself. What are we seeing? Someone asked, not sure who. In the room, Tenzel stood slowly. That's not luck, he said quietly. Naya was now standing. Her uniform was torn, her face pale, but her posture was upright and balanced. She looked toward the observation glass, straight at Colvin. She reached to her chest and peeled back the torn fabric. There, where the round had struck, was smooth skin, newly formed. No wound, no scar, just a faint red mark, already fading. Then, she smiled. It was small, almost polite, and every instructor in the room felt it like a warning. Naya Torman sat in the medical bay like a ghost that had walked out of a nightmare. Her skin, pale under the harsh white lights, still carried the faint shimmer of drying. Blood, some of it hers, some of it not. The blood hadn't dried normally either. It shifted slightly from time to time, forming strange patterns across her uniform before settling back into stillness. Everyone pretended not to notice, but no one looked directly at her for long. Across the room, Commander Varix watched her through a reinforced glass panel. He had served in 5 war campaigns, negotiated with psychic warlords, and once walked across the surface of a sun-shielded moon during a radiation breach. But the sight of a human cadet who had stood up from a confirmed death report made him uneasy, and that didn't happen often. She shouldn't have survived. That was what the data said. That was what the medical scans showed. No heart activity. No brain function. Her blood oxygen had flatlined. By all known standards across 150 species, she had been dead. But then she got up, and now she was sitting there calmly, arms crossed, waiting to be questioned like nothing strange had happened. Dr. Lysa, a specialist in xenobiology, entered the chamber with a nervous energy she couldn't quite hide. Her race, the Solari, were known for emotional neutrality, but even her voice trembled slightly when she greeted Naya. "We've run your scans 3 times. They keep showing inconsistencies." Naya tilted her head. "That's one way to say it." Dr. Lysa hesitated. "There's no wound. But the projectile entered your chest. There's no damage to your heart, and the security footage clearly shows blood loss. We estimated you had less than 8 seconds to live, but you returned. You revived. We don't understand." Naya looked down at the dried red streaks along her arms. "It's not something I planned, but it wasn't an accident either." At that moment, the door opened and Commander Varric stepped in, his boots silent on the smooth floor. "Cadet Torman," he said in a low, careful voice. "Tell us exactly what happened." She didn't move at first, then slowly nodded. "The round hit, I felt the impact. I knew it was real ammunition. The moment the pain hit, something inside me responded. Something I've never felt before. My blood, it wasn't just bleeding. It was moving, like it was thinking. Then, everything went black." She paused, eyes distant. "And then I woke up." Varric exchanged a glance with Dr. Lysa. "You're saying your body responded on its own? Instinct?" "No," Naya said. "Not instinct. Programming." The silence that followed was sharp. Lisa leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Naya took a deep breath. "Emergency nanite deployment protocol. My bloodstream carries nanotech, organically bonded, undetectable by most standard scans. They're designed to activate only under extreme trauma. I didn't know I had them. I was told human cadets were equipped with baseline medical upgrades. I didn't realize they'd gone this far." "You're saying you have medical-grade nanites in your blood?" Varric asked, now completely focused. "Not medical," she replied. "Defensive. Healing is just the first part." They also reacted to the source of the threat. The simulation had been tampered with. I don't know how, but they found out. When they repaired me, they retaliated. Dr. Lisa blinked. "Retaliated? Against the simulation?" Naya nodded. "They identified the control core linked to the override. They pulled it, literally, right out of the system. That's what I was holding when I walked out." Varric didn't speak. His thoughts were racing faster than he could organize. Nanites were common among high-tier species, but nothing about humans had ever indicated this level of integration. And to hide them so well, even under standard health checks? Naya stood slowly. "I know this changes things. I know you're going to run tests. I get it. But whatever you decide, I need to be clear on one thing." She walked to the table, picked up her broken helmet, and turned to face them. "This wasn't about showing off. I didn't ask for this, but I survived because I had to. Because no one else expected me to. And that's something you need to remember." Dr. Lisa looked at Varric, who gave a small nod. Later that day, the report reached the council. Whispers spread quickly across the Citadel and then across every connected outpost in the galaxy. Humans, long considered the weakest species in the Academy, had just rewritten the expectations. Stories of Naya's survival twisted with every retelling. Some said she was invincible, others claimed she was part machine. One version even said she came back to life because humans refused to die out of sheer stubbornness. None of that mattered to Naya. She sat in her quarters that evening, watching the stars drift by outside her window. Her uniform had been cleaned, the blood gone, but a part of her missed it. It had told a story no one else could tell. A story about survival, about silence, and about being underestimated one too many times. She looked at her hands. They looked normal again. But she knew what they were capable of now. So did everyone else. And the Citadel of Stars would never look at humans the same way again. 3 weeks after Naya Torman walked out of Simulation Zone 19, covered in her own blood and someone else's secrets, the Citadel of Stars had changed. Not in structure. The towers still reached into the void like blades. The corridors still buzzed with the sound of drills and lectures. But the air had shifted. Quietly, sharply. Where there had once been dismissive glances from alien cadets, there were now careful looks. Where instructors had once sighed at the mention of humans, they now paused. And when Naya passed through the halls, people moved out of the way. Not out of fear exactly, but out of uncertainty. That, in many ways, was more powerful. At the center of the Citadel, the high chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with pale blue light as representatives of dozens of species watched a single human cadet sit calmly before them. Naya wore a fresh uniform, unblemished this time, though it fit a little differently now. She sat upright, shoulders squared, gaze steady. No smugness, no defiance, just readiness. They were here to ask questions. She was ready to answer. Cadet Tormin, began a tall, silver-skinned counselor named Viral. You claim that the nanite response which revived you was part of a sanctioned protocol, correct? Naya nodded. Yes, counselor. Regulation 9412B, subsection 7. Category: 3 species, like humans, are permitted to enhance survival with approved internal tech. And why? Asked a small creature whose voice came from a translation device. Did none of us know about it? Naya answered simply, because no one ever asked. That hung in the air longer than expected. No denial, no excuse, just fact. The counselor beside Viril, a glowing orb named Shal, floated forward slightly. You're suggesting the responsibility for this surprise lies with us? I'm suggesting, said Naya carefully, that if someone is always underestimated, no one thinks to investigate them thoroughly, the council whispered. Not loudly, not angrily, just enough to stir the space around them like a soft wind. It wasn't just the council who had been caught off guard. The entire galactic community had been. Naya's survival had spread like plasma fire across the networks. Some claimed she'd discovered a loophole in mortality. Others believed she was a weapon Earth had secretly developed and planted at the Citadel, but most couldn't explain it at all. Outside the chamber, Jarun waited. He leaned against the wall, nervously tapping a boot against the floor. Other cadets stood near him, including Karun, the lizard-like ally who'd once ignored him completely. Now Karun nodded in greeting. Strange times. Inside, the council session ended not with punishment, not with scandal, but with an offer. Naya had been selected for a post unlike any before. First human tactical lead on an exploratory vessel. The ship, the Rift Whisperer, was part of the Pathfinder initiative, sent beyond mapped systems to make first contact with unknown species and civilizations. It was dangerous work. It was also a message. The galaxy had noticed Earth's so-called weakest species, and now it wanted to see more. Naya packed lightly. She didn't need much. Before leaving her quarters, she took a moment to read a message from home. Her grandmother's last letter, written just before Naya left Earth for the Citadel. It was short, warm, and full of quiet wisdom. At the end, her grandmother had written, "Don't just pass their tests, Naya. Make them rewrite the rules." She smiled and folded it into her jacket. The launch bay was crowded, though no one said much. Jarun hugged her quickly and whispered, "Try not to bleed all over the next galaxy. They might not be as forgiving." "I'll try," she replied, smirking. But no promises. As the engines of the Rift Whisperer roared to life, Naya stood on the deck and watched the Citadel fade behind her. Part of her felt the pull to stay. The other part, the louder one, knew she had more work to do. More assumptions to challenge. More stars to reach. Months later, in a quiet archive deep within Citadel records, a new plaque was installed just outside Simulation Zone 19. Unlike the tall monuments and glowing displays celebrating the great alien tacticians of the past, this plaque was small, simple, and dark. It bore a human phrase etched in 3 languages. Never assume silence means safety. It was unofficial. No announcement had been made, but cadets found it anyway. They stared at it, whispered about it. Some rolled their eyes. Others didn't sleep well that night. Back on Earth, Naya's story spread in waves. Not all of it made sense. Some details changed with each telling, but the part everyone remembered was simple. She died and came back. She bled and then she stood, not because she was built differently, but because she refused to stay down. In time, other humans would join her path, some with nanites, some without, but all of them carried the same quiet promise. You can break us, sure, but you won't stop us. And far beyond the mapped stars aboard the Rift Whisperer, Naya Tormund sat at her command station, staring into the unknown. A soft red glow flickered under her skin as the ship entered unexplored space. Let them wonder, she thought. Let them watch. And let them remember what happened the last time someone made a human bleed.